Hello, everyone, and welcome back to SMC's weekly Substack Live. This week, we are taking a deep dive into the world of connection, technology, and the human experience. So, starting with one of my favorite TED Talks entitled Connected but Alone, renowned American sociologist and Abby Rockefeller, professor of social studies at MIT, Sherry Turkle explains how our digital age has caused us to feel more disconnected with each other and ourselves. In this talk, she implores listeners to be intentional and aware about the ways in which we use technology and the ways in which technology uses us. Next, we fast forward over 10 years since that TED Talk to continue with the deep inner monologue of Professor Turkle on Jonathan Haidt's Substack After Babel. In the article entitled Reclaiming Conversation in the Age of AI, she explores how AI is jeopardizing our collective humanity. She encourages us to reclaim our human identity and, with that, reestablish our need for human conversation and connection. Now, I could think of no one better than high schooler and COO of Lookup, Atish for today's conversation about reconnecting with ourselves. Lookup is a youth-led, community-powered nonprofit and mobile app based out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Their mission is to address the growing issues of teen loneliness and youth mental health crisis by nudging students to put down their phones when it matters most, when they're around others like friends, families, and teachers. By promoting this face-to-face interaction like Turkle talks about, they aim to foster healthier digital habits and improved social connection. So we cannot wait to hear more from Tish about his work at Lookup and more deeply about his thoughts on how we can reconnect with each other in the digital age. Today, we also will be hearing from Sarah Martin, SMC Summer Fellow, and now our new member of the NextGen Board. Super excited to have you. Sarah, we're so thankful that you took your time out of your very busy Columbia MBA schedule to rejoin us for today's discussion and discussions in the future. So now that we know the topic and we know the conversationalists, let's just jump in. So Atish, let's start with you. So in Sherry Turkle's TED Talk, The Connected But Alone, she explains how technology often gives us this illusion of connection while actually pulling us away from authentic relationships. From your perspective as this youth leader building spaces for real connection, how do you see this illusion showing up in the lives of teens today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you see that, a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers and young people, we have a lot of friends we talk to on, social media, we text, and we have a lot of like these connections. But then when it comes to, sharing, or being vulnerable or sharing things that, and opening up and sharing things that matter to you, there's not a lot of people you can talk to. So we have this illusion of having all these friends and having all this connection and this kind of superficial interaction. When it comes to sharing like the deeper things, most high schoolers don't have anyone to talk to, and that's why this generation is one of the loneliest in history. Is that we can't really connect with anyone, and I think we have this illusion of thinking it's not a problem uh, because we have these followers or we have these contacts, but um, it's not real. Uh, yeah,
Absolutely. And I love how you frame that. I think it's this illusion, it's this superficial connection. And I always say to people, I'm very thankful for the friends and followers I have online, for the people that you meet and you connect with. But to your point, there's something that's just fundamentally different when you're talking with someone in person over Zoom, you're hearing their voice, you're conversing, versus doing that with either a machine or someone online through text. It's just a different experience and it's very differently fulfilling. So kind of going off of that, Sarah, I'm interested. I want to turn to you. So Turkle's talk was delivered over a decade ago. With so many of her warnings, they feel super urgent today. So do you think that our relationship with technology has actually gotten more complicated in the past 10 years? And if so, where do you see the Gen Z leading the way in rethinking it? You've worked in technology, you've worked in kind of some of the background coding environments. Can you talk us through how you kind of perceive this?
I think that talk was remarkably um, predictive of the future when you see that it took place in 2012. Facetune came on the scene in 2013. And that was just ushering in this new era of when a ton of our social life was being offloaded online. And we were really trying to recreate this perfect life that we wanted to have in our heads that we couldn't because of the messiness of real life. And I think it's gotten only more complicated because as we got more used to working with technology, we're more used to having things faster, making sure that we can have things easily accessible, and also, like for example, if you wanted to get in touch with your friends before smartphones, you had to use a regular phone, and before that, you had to wait. But now, if I don't text back my friends in half an hour, it becomes almost like this unspoken signal of like, well, you were too busy to reply. And, oh, they were reading it just a moment ago, or they were online. And it just becomes this complicated game of like not allowing for the imperfections of physical life. And I don't want to get ahead of us here, but it's only the stark contrast is only more highlighted when it comes to ChatGPT. That is the perfect conversationalist. But I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I think that, well, thank you, Sarah. That was the perfect segue. I kind of want to move into discussing how AI plays into this. So in the Afterbabble article called Reclaiming Conversation in the Age of AI, this is a piece that Turkle revisits her earlier arguments, but within the context of artificial intelligence, like you mentioned. She warns that AI risks undermining, to your point, this uniquely human practice of conversation, engaging the imperfections, and calls us to reclaim it as it is essential to our humanity. Now, Atish, you're building Lookup in the very middle of this like AI revolution. So I'm curious, how do you think AI intersects with this like loneliness crisis that you brought up earlier amongst young people? Does it risk replacing real connection, or could it play a role in nudging us? You talk about nudging in your technology. Could it nudge us back towards one another? Talk us through kind of that nuance.
Yeah, Emma, I think AI is so deeply intertwined with the loneliness crisis. So I think kind of to tell a story, starting from a little earlier, I want to talk about a study that scientists did where they took a rat, right? And they put it in a cage. They had nothing in it except two pieces of water, like two water bottles, right? One was normal water, the other was laced with drugs. And they noticed that rats would repeatedly go in and they would overdose. They drink from the wastewater and they die over and over again. So what they did was they made a new cage and they called this one a rat park. So in this time they put a bunch of rats together. They gave them like games. I'm not sure if you'd call them games. They gave things for rats. They gave things that the rats could do. They gave cheese. They had all these other things to keep them engaged. And they noticed that the rats stopped or generally avoided the laced water, right? So this idea that addiction and overuse kind of comes out of something that's missing, right?
Mhm.
For the most part, obviously it's a general trend. So I think the same thing goes with AI and youth loneliness, right? Where people are more likely to become over reliant on AI. And like Turkle talks about, it's not the same as human interaction and it's a lot more superficial. I think we're a lot more likely to become over reliant on it if we don't have meaningful interactions in daily life. So I think they're very, very intertwined. And in order to get people to, become less over reliant, we need to facilitate that in-person interaction. And I think that's kind of where nudging comes in the sense is that you need like we're with other people. And this is one of the fundamental premises behind Lookup is you're with other people, but you're on your phone, right? And this is again, like Turko also mentioned in your TED Talk, there's a lot of consequences of this. But the idea is that in those moments, you can nudge those users or those people to put down their phones and talk to the people around them. And then this, now they put down their phones, they talk to each other. And now that rat park study kind of comes into play. Now that you have this validation, you're less likely to go to your phone and be addicted, whether that's to social media, AI, anything. So that's kind of how I see those two interacting, but obviously they're both very complex topics that interact in so many different ways that we probably haven't even seen yet. And all this is going to only get worse and more extreme as AI advances.
Absolutely. And I think that that's we've already proven that from the transition from our different mediums and pieces today, from something from Turkle, in like 2012 and over 10 years ago, to this piece on AI. We can see even in her call to action, it's becoming much more urgent. It's her saying we have grown, the issue's grown even larger, and it's going to get worse, and we really need to like act now. So based off of the second article in After Babel, Sarah, you know, talk us through what stood out to you most from the article. Do you see the push to reclaim conversation as a practical step for individuals, or do you think that it might require, larger cultural or systemic changes to really take hold?
I think that wanting to reclaim conversation is a good first step. But really, the ultimate goal would be just to engage in activities and events that are phone-free. Although that is a small but growing trend right now, I think that starting small and just setting aside some time where you don't use your phone purposely, like when you have downtime, but you purposely won't use your phone, is best to just rediscover that feeling of what it's like to take in the environment and see everything that's going in around you.
Beautiful. I totally agree. And I do think that, I kind of gave you a false binary. I agree. I think it's nuanced. You should, as a first step, discuss with people around you using apps like Lookup, how can we reclaim conversation? How can we reprioritize what makes us feel most fulfilled? But to your point, there are much larger systemic issues at play. And it's going to take, I think, what, Jonathan Haidt talks a lot about. It's going to take a lot of individuals, a lot of activists, a lot of people out there like all of us to continue having the conversation and pushing for change for us to see long-term positive effects or trends away from harm. Which talking about that, this kind of takes us to our last conversation, which is always my favorite segment of these Substack lives, which is our open mic. So for this open mic, again, I will give you the platform to say anything and everything related to the guiding question or whatever you want. But today's kind of question is based off of Lookup. It's based off of the work that y'all have been doing. So I want to know, what makes you want to look up? And then specifically, Atish, I want to know what made you really want to engage in this work. For some, it is connecting with family. For others, it's a specific goal or hobby. For some activists, they get in for many different reasons. So want to hear from both of you, what makes you want to engage in human conversation? Like what excites you about that? What makes you want to look up and re-engage and reconnect? I'll start with you first, Sarah.
I think moving to New York City and seeing the diversity of people around me made me want to actually put down my phone, look around, and even strike up a conversation with the person next to me. And it's been one of my little things that I like, that if I'm on the subway and then there's someone who has a little keychain that I recognize or a bag or something, I'll tell them I like it and ask them where they got it from. And usually it leads to this whole story of how personally significant it is to them. And I've actually made one or two friends out of it too. And it really made it feel like I really felt more at home getting to know the people around me.
Absolutely. And I think that that's doing exactly what Sherry Turkle was saying, which is reclaiming conversation. It's even if it's one thing that you say each day, that's opening the door to so many other beautiful memories and moments and storytelling. And I think it's a great way to actively reintegrate and reprioritize having those type of free, open conversations like she thinks that we should have in the age of AI. So, Atish, what about you? What makes you, one, want to look up, but two, create the app lookup?
Yeah, I think for me, the reason to look up is that I want to look up is I think there's just something so like primal to humans and so just gratifying and beautiful about connecting with someone and being vulnerable and opening up to them and having them value you and valuing them is just something that I think is so fundamental to human nature that you just crave, and it's deeply gratifying and satisfying. So I think, and there's also an element of agency too. Like I want to be able to be with my friends that I want to. I don't want to be, you know, uh, can't think of the right word, but I don't want to be like almost forced by, my
Mhm.
phone using all like the dopamine hijacking. I want to be in control and be able to put down my phone and be able to be with the people around me because that's what I really want to do. I don't want to be like victim to, an algorithm that, has changed my dopamine centers to want to be on my phone. I want to be in control and live life like how I want to and with the people around me. So that's kind of why I want to look up, and as to why I made look up is I think there was just this change in life after friends, got as my friends got smartphones. Like it was used to go out and we used to play in the woods, play basketball, do all these things that I look back on. I'm like, wow, that's so fun. But then like kind of going into like middle school, it, people got phones, and now we were just watching TikToks, over other's shoulders, and that was really not as gratifying and not as satisfying. So I think that kind of drew me to kind of tackle this issue of how can we get people to be present with people around them and how, and to not be lonely and to connect with one another. So that's kind of why I spend my time working on Lookup. And that's kind of our goal is to help, everyone, especially young people, reclaim that the power of human connection.
Absolutely. And so for those who are listening, who are like, that sounds amazing, I want to be a part of it, I want to just engage in any way, how could they go about doing that? How can they learn more about Lookup, or how can they engage with the app itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you can download it on the App Store. We're gonna launch a new version the next month or so. That's gonna be a lot better. So we'll be on the lookout for that. You can also like follow us on LinkedIn or go to our website. And if you want to get involved, local businesses, communities sponsor rewards for Lookup users. So if you own
Mhm.
a business or parents can give rewards to their kids for being off their phone at the dinner table. So really, there's a way for everyone to get involved, and you can contact us on our website. Is probably the best way to reach us.
Mhm. And I would just like everyone who's listening to know, Atish is, you said, a sophomore in high school?
Yeah, just started sophomore year 2 weeks
Sophomore
ago.
year and doing this. So genuinely it's youth advocacy has come so far, and I'm so glad that you're continuing to apply pressure to our current status quo, because I think that an app like this is so monumentally important to, again, reclaim conversation and reclaim these spaces. So SMC is so glad that you're on our NextGen board and so happy to support the app in any way.
Great,
So
thank
honestly,
you,
that's a wrap for today's conversation. Want to thank Sarah for jumping on, for rejoining and sharing her perspective, and especially a big thank you to Atish. Thank you for bringing
thank you.
not only the vision and the heart of Lookup into the discussion, but just kind of its energy. Your work shows us that reclaiming conversation, it is not just an abstract idea, but it's something we can practice every single day by putting our phones down and being present with the people around us and ourselves. So thank you to everyone who tuned in. We cannot wait to continue our conversation next week. But until then, please take the advice of Sherry Turkle, go download Lookup, and have a great weekend. And remember to connect with the people around you, even if it's just someone on the subway, like Sarah said.